Well, the Western Cape High Court has extended the interim interdict preventing city authorities from confiscating personal belongings of homeless people. 7 homeless people approached the courts after their valuables were seized to challenge the constitutionality of this action. Let's get some more on this now. I'm joined by Lucien Lewin. He's the attorney who acted for the 7 homeless people. Lucien, a very good evening and thanks so much for your time. So give us some idea of just exactly what you had to argue for. What was your argument in this case in court?
Thank you very much. So essentially what we've been doing is we launched an application in about August to interdict the city from continuing to prosecute fines already issued to the 7 applicants and all other homeless people in the city of Cape Town, and also to interdict them from confiscating the personal belongings of homeless people in ostensible reliance on the bylaws, and finally to interdict them from harassing and abusing homeless people in the city of Cape Town in ostensible reliance on the bylaws. Yesterday's hearing was in respect of that particular application. An order was granted in September by Judge Bozilek of the Western Cape High Court, preserving our clients' rights pending yesterday's hearing. And essentially what the court found yesterday was that it would extend that particular order to until we have had a chance to review the conduct of the city and specifically the bylaws in regard to the constitutionality of these aspects.
So, Lucien, just to bring it home for those of us who, don't even know what it's like to spend a night on the streets, give us some idea of what these people had been subjected to. How had they been treated?
The interviews that I've had and consultations I've had with my clients have revealed some seriously damaging conduct perpetrated by the city's law enforcement officials against them and other homeless people. So by way of example, one of my clients lived in the company gardens. It was out of the way of the general traffic, and what would happen, it was in June or May this year, it was raining, and the law enforcement officials, according to her, arrived at her shack and basically dispossessed her of all her cardboard and her plastic, which was keeping her safe, and also removed things like ID documents, her beaded jewelry, dentures in one instance as well. So that was the kind of suffering which these people have been enduring, specifically in the Cape winter, which is very harsh.
And listen, when I did interviews on this a couple of months ago, when the issue first came to the public's attention, the explanations we had were that this is the risk, this is what the sort of pesky business that it was, that this is the disturbance they were causing. But the other explanation from the city was that yes, there are places for them to go, there are shelters where they can go. So I mean, I don't know that that they can accommodate every single homeless person. I don't even know if these people know where to go or how they're actually treated at those shelters. So you tell us what you've learned from your clients as to whether that really is an option. Are there really other safe places for them to go where they will be given some place, a dry place to sleep and be safe?
Yes, so there are the shelters in the city of Cape Town which people can go to. There is also a place called the Safe Space, which the city has created under one of the highway bridges in the CBD, where people can go at night. What I've discovered from my interviews with my clients is that, firstly, the shelters there's just not enough beds. There are about 7,000 homeless people in the city of Cape Town and 3,000 beds available. The same can be said for the Safe Space, which was created by the city. It has a capacity of, I think, about 222 beds, and at the moment it's almost at capacity, and many people are still sleeping on the streets. So it's not a simple case of the people can just go and find a shelter and then they will be off the streets. And then there are also issues where people have been harassed in shelters. People who are gay get victimized because they're gay in these shelters. And so it's not a choice for my clients and other homeless people, or many other homeless people, to live on the streets. They actually, they find it more bearable for themselves to actually live on the streets, and that's the situation which they are faced with on a daily basis.
And did the city argue or explain at all, Lucien, in court, how do you find somebody who is out on the street begging just for 5 rand for bread or whatever it might be? How do you give them a fine that ranges into the thousands, from what I understand? I mean, what do they really hope to achieve with that?
Well, the city has said in its papers that there's a process that gets followed. They try and reintegrate homeless people into the system, and when that doesn't work, their words were, when they are resistant to that kind of action, they then take the next steps, which are to issue a compliance notice saying stop this activity, failing which we will be forced to do it ourselves or fine you, and then they issue the fines. The problem is that that hasn't happened with every homeless person in the city of Cape Town. At least my clients, the 7 clients who I'm acting for, that hasn't been the way that they've experienced the city of Cape Town's conduct with them.
I mean,
and that is why they ultimately came to me.
In the carrying out or in the protecting of these bylaws, Lucien, would you say then that the authorities have been abusing their position and abusing these people?
From what I have been instructed by my clients, that does seem to be the case, where law enforcement officials actually step outside of the law and abuse their positions of power. Some of my clients have said on an affidavit they were told to go back to where they came from, or to stop embarrassing their race like this because they're living on the streets. All kinds of things like that have happened to them. So yes, I think in answer to your question, my clients, from what they've told me, have been abused.
All right, so what you've got now is an extension of this interim interdict. So what next? What is the ultimate for you? What are you aiming for at the end of this, even given what you've just told me now about the abuse that they're subjected to?
Yes. Well, I think the one thing that my firm and I, Dingley Marshall, have wanted to do is to give the most marginalized in our society a voice and let the justice system take its course. So we have tried to give them a voice by giving them legal representation, taking their statements, putting it on affidavit and presenting it to the court. And I think that we've succeeded thus far in this regard. My clients and other homeless people have had a voice. The fact that we are talking today says that they have a voice. The ultimate aim and the main prize is to launch a review application of the constitutionality of the City of Cape Town's officials in implementing the bylaws or giving effect to the bylaws. And if it's found that they haven't misinterpreted the bylaws, then we're actually going to say, well, then the bylaws are problematic, they are unconstitutional. And so our aim is to launch a review application early next year to look at the conduct of the City of Cape Town's law enforcement officials, and also to look at the constitutionality of the bylaws in terms of which they're acting.
Thanks very much for that. That's Attorney Lucien Lewin in our case.